This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
There we are, ready to go. How you feeling, my brother? You feeling good?
I am feeling good. I'm getting a new roof put on the house, as you know. So I told you, and it's like a multiple day process, and it is a process. I'm not necessarily complaining because you basically got it for nothing because hail damage, which I didn't even know we had. So I'm not complaining, but it has been when you think it's over, it's not. But other than that, it's fine. Whatever, it'll get done. But yeah, I could do without hearing people walk on the roof all day long.
Are you getting a metal roof?
No,
Okay.
just a regular shingles. But there's 2 layers on there. There were 2 layers on there, so now I think I got to get those off. Then they got to take those magnets and go all over the yard because there's about 3,000 nails down there, and everything. So it's just multifaceted. Process, and then they do the gutters at different time and the downspouts at different times. So it's just if you go barefoot and run around the house in circles, you'll pick up the nails too at the same time. I would. That is true.
That would work. It'd be a little painful,
yeah,
but it would work actually. So
it would get the job done.
Would get the job done. You might lose a little blood in the process, but then again, maybe they'll paint the walls red with you. That's it. That's what they can do there. I don't know. I'm just wondering. So, because we're trying to do the roof switch also now. So I'm working on that too. Maybe get a metal roof. That's what I'm working on down here. So I don't know if the metal roof is a thing over there. You're in the Chicago suburbs, right?
Yeah, some people have them. I knew a bunch of friends growing up in New York who had them. We just we're getting the shingles, just a regular, whatever they are, 50-year shingles, and it's fine. I mean, it'll look nice, but look, we're very thankful in the sense. I guess we had hail damage, but it didn't do any actual damage, and so the insurance company went up there. They're like, "Yeah, that's fine. Just redo it." I was like, "What? That saves me a lot of money. I was expecting to spend the next few years, so yeah. I'm not complaining." Yeah. But it has been a process, and I'm sure. When I'm walking around my yard next week, I'm sure I'm going to find a few of those nails. Hopefully just not right through my toe. That's the goal.
Yeah. Matt, you need to look for those nails after they're gone. Had our roof done last year, and I'm still finding nails.
There you go. Yeah, there you go. I'm sure I'm going to mow a few up. It's going to be a good time.
Yeah, that's funny. That's funny. Listen, every day that Deshaun Watson contract just gets better for the Cleveland Browns, bro. I mean, every day becomes a bigger bargain that they made that deal. Holy moly, man. Can it be a bigger disaster? Jesus.
That contract, first of all, before you even get into the contract, that's getting into the trade. Okay. And let us never forget that after a Texas grand jury decided not to bring criminal charges, 4 teams went full tilt after Deshaun Watson, and the Browns were the lucky winners. The Browns got the right to give up their entire future and a huge $230 million fully guaranteed contract. And now he's not only been terrible for the 2 years that he's played, he's either been suspended or hurt. So this has been, to say it's been a failure to this point would be kind. It has been an unmitigated disaster at this point for Cleveland.
And by the way, if you watch it, brother, he can't hit the side of a barn downfield. Like, he has lost all his mojo, because that's actually what made Watson the mojo he had. He was as clutch as it could get in big moments, and he would make the key throw in those big moments. And you watch him now, dude, and he is nowhere close on accuracy downfield. I mean, he almost makes Lamar Jackson look accurate downfield, and Lamar Jackson isn't accurate downfield.
It's been a disaster for Cleveland for a lot of reasons. But yeah, when you watch Deshaun Watson at one point in that Baltimore game, now to his credit, he finished 14-14 and they came back and they won and fine. He was 7 of 21 with a pick six. I mean, it was atrocious.
Yeah.
And this is not the first time. There's a lot of games with him where he'll start out 6 of 20,
Yeah.
8 of 20. And you're like, man, I mean, this is brutal stuff. And they've got some decent weapons, even without Chubb. I mean, they've got Amari Cooper. They've got David Njoku, right? I mean, they've got right now the tackles are beat up, but a good offensive line. They're a mess. I mean, that team offensively is a mess. Now, to their credit, they're 6-3 because the defense has played well and what
running game.
Now you bring in Dorian Thompson-Robinson, and the one game he played, they scored 3 points and got beat by 25, and he threw 3 interceptions. And now, if they decide to go away from DTR, they've got PJ Walker, who currently is completing 49% of his passes for 1 touchdown and 5 interceptions. It's not great. If you're not feeling ultra confident here, if you're Cleveland, I'll tell you the real winner in all this is Pittsburgh, because Pittsburgh plays them this weekend. And for all the issues the Steelers have, they're going to beat Cleveland this weekend. Dorian Thompson-Robinson is not beating the Steelers. So the Steelers now, hey, man, they got the Browns. They got the Cardinals and Patriots at home back-to-back weeks in December. They're going to get to 10 wins. They're going to make the playoffs. Now, they're going to be cannon fodder. Somebody's going to beat them by 50 points in the playoffs. But they're going to get there. The question is, can Cleveland still do it? I am doubtful on that. But, yeah, it is. This season is falling apart due to a litany of injuries, now the latest one being Watson.
And listen, it's not the Steelers' fault because as a Dolphins fan, I've witnessed it myself. All these teams that get in on the back end of the playoffs, Dolphins have been one of those in the past. These teams don't really deserve to be in the playoffs. We have in the NFL, we really have way too many teams in the playoffs. The 6 and 7 seeds, I could argue year in and year out, those teams pretty much have no shot to really get there. I know that we've had examples in years past where the wild card has gone all the way, but that's just a rare thing now. And to be a 7th or a 6th seed wild card, they're just really bad teams at this point to get into the playoffs. Those teams just stand no chance.
No, Pittsburgh's going to get smoked in the first round of the playoffs. I don't care who they play. Jacksonville, Miami, Baltimore, whatever. It doesn't matter. They're losing. I mean, Baltimore would probably be the matchup they'd want just because they're so familiar with them. Right. You know, it'd be it's a divisional game. So you get one of those games where it's just ugly and you drag them into the mud and you hope that, you can get it done. But yeah, look, this is, I got to tell you though, as bad as that is, I mean, do you know what the NFC is going to be like? Josh Dobbs is a great story. You know what that's going to be like when they go to San Francisco, the wild card round? Yeah. It reminds me of when I was a kid in the 90s and you'd get like the Steve Walsh, great Miami player, the Steve Walsh Bears,
right?
And they'd go to Dallas and you're like, oh my God. And it was just over like the turning point of those games was the anthem, right? Like the second the game started, Dallas would come out and just run a lead draw like 5 times in a row and bam, it's a 7-0 lead. There you go, game's over because they're not going to score. That's what it reminds me of. Like when a kid, you'd watch, the Niners draw like the Bobby Hoying Eagles. You're like, oh, this is like the line could be 30 and I take the Niners. Like that's where we are with some of these games.
Yeah, I'm with you there. All right, so the Bills issues. You've got, so instead of Stephon Diggs doing his dirty work, he's got Trayvon now sending all the tweets and, the whole thing that, man, 14 better get out of there. And then that the other guy didn't start having, Pro Bowl years or whatever success until, Big Bro got there. Although Diggs never made a Pro Bowl until he got to Buffalo also. So, it is what it is. It goes both ways. But it just doesn't look like he is playing with confidence. They fire Ken Dorsey, and now you've got the Stephon Diggs situation, which he's as volatile as crypto sometimes. So you tell me, what the hell is going on in Buffalo, and has that window closed already?
Well, before we get to Buffalo, Robbie Chosen was just waived by the Dolphins. So just heads up there. We missed that. I see that Joe Shad and Tom Pelissero. As for the Bills, that loss on Monday night, that was one of the more inexcusable losses you'll ever see. I mean, you're at home in prime time playing a team that I don't care what a lot of people in my world, the national media say, Denver stinks. Like, Denver was atrocious in that game and won the game because you turned the ball over 4 times. And, oh, by the way, you can't count. So you end up with a 12 men on the field call that essentially gifts them the game. With Diggs in particular, I don't know where you go with this. Like, what would concern me is, okay, so Trayvon Diggs is telling tales out of school here, okay? Nobody denied it. Like, nobody came out. Like, it wasn't like you heard Stephon Diggs 20 minutes later, like, that's ridiculous. He needs to shut his mouth. He's wrong. Right. Nobody said anything. And then after the game, like, Gabe Davis won't talk. He's a captain. Von Miller didn't talk. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer. James Cook didn't talk. Like, Allen had to talk, barely said a word. I mean, and then they fired the offensive coordinator. And I'm sitting there after the game thinking to myself, like, that's the guy. Like, he's the problem. Like, he's not the one who's leading the league in picks every year. He's not the one fumbling the ball away. He's not the one who can't count to 11. Okay, like, he's not been perfect this year by any means. But my God, you want to talk about a fall guy? He was the fall guy after that game. And so I will tell you this: I don't think the Bills are making the playoffs. I don't. I know some people think to turn this around. They got the Jets this week, and I do think they'll beat the Jets. Then they go to Philly and Kansas City. Good night. Like, that's the end right there. Because I'll tell you right now, against Philly, they're going to get bullied all over the field. And against Kansas City, the Chiefs are going to do whatever they have to do to take Diggs out of the game. Who's beating them? Where are they getting beat anywhere else? I mean, if they could shut down Miami's offense, they're going to shut down Buffalo's offense. Yeah. And if the Chiefs score 20 points, you're going to win. So, yeah, I think, look, if you're Buffalo, you have 5 conference losses. Like, you're going to lose every tiebreaker you have. You need to go 11-6. They're not going 11-6. So I think, I do think this season's done for them, and I think they're going to have a lot of hard questions to ask themselves when it comes to the offseason.
Did the Dolphins turn the corner versus Kansas City? Because of it's not so much the loss, because it was actually a close loss. There are only a couple of plays to be made in that game, and really, the receiver kind of screwed up the entire game. Tyreek in that one. But the fact that they shut down the best player in football for the entire half, I think people are not talking enough about how maybe Miami now will turn a corner, because now with Jalen Ramsey, that becomes a completely different defense and a completely different secondary. Holland also was missing for a week, and he came back from an injury. I kind of think that this, while it was a loss, I think it was a turning point for the Miami Dolphins.
It could be. It's hard with games like that, because on one hand, I don't disagree with you. Like, they played well defensively, and I do believe they will get better and better as the year goes on defensively, because they're getting guys back, and Fangio's scheme will take hold, and I think that's all coming.
They still have to prove offensively if they're as tough as maybe their defense can be.
And that's actually where I was going to go with this. Is I don't know, because I can't say that offensively, like, not that they needed to turn offensive corner, but they did against good teams. And in that game, they had one good drive that entire game. I mean, they got the ball handed to them at the 20-something, and they scored, and fair enough. But, like, they had one drive down the field. My concern in Miami remains, when you play a physical football team, how do you answer that? Because they've played 3 of them this year, and they're all 3. Now, the flip side of that is, I do think the defense is going to be better and better, and so you're not going to have to score as many points. And so maybe instead of having to score 30, maybe you got to score 24. And in the NFL, it's a big difference.
Right.
I think the big thing for the Dolphins right now is the way the schedule sets up. You got 5 games in a row, you ought to win.
Oh God, yeah. Like, they've got this. It's a bye week for 5 weeks.
And it should be, look, you gotta handle your business. Like,
yes.
That's the thing right now for Miami. Don't give Buffalo a way to get back in the division. Don't, like, even if you don't get the 1 seed, handle your business the next 5 weeks. Win those games. And then in those last 3 weeks, win 1 or 2 of those games. Show that, hey, you know what? We can beat Dallas. We can beat Baltimore. Okay, we can beat Buffalo if that game means anything in week 18. That's what I want to see out of Miami. But yeah, I think it could be. Look, if nothing else, that game could have gotten real ugly after halftime. That could have been one of those games. It was just 35-3, and you're like, all right. It wasn't. To Miami's credit, they didn't give up. They made it a game. They didn't come all the way back, but they fought hard. I think at least you can walk out of that with some positives rather than just walk away from it going, "Oh my God."
The difference in that game was Tyreek's fumble. That's it. Both teams scored 14 points.
Right.
That's it. The difference was the one mistake that Tyreek made, and the second, two, because Tua threw a beautiful bomb to him. That would have been points, and he dropped it right in his hands. And you were already in KC territory there. You would have gotten points out of that drive. So basically, he left 2 scoring drives there. One that he gave to KC, and one that he took away from his team. In that one. So the Dolphins kind of pretty much matched what KC could do there on that day, and that's pretty cool, dude. I thought that was impressive because we had not seen the defense play that way, and to play against Mahomes that way, shit, dude. Wow, that's impressive.
They did a great job. They held Kelce to 14 yards, and they were able in the second half specifically to really just shut him down. Look, it's going to be interesting because the AFC, the way it's shaking out right now, I mean, I don't think you're going to have Buffalo in the playoffs. And you'll look around the conference, who's the team? Look, Kansas City right now until proven otherwise.
KC, Cincy, and
right.
And that's it.
Yeah, I mean, because Kansas City until proven otherwise, that's the team that if you got to go to Arrowhead in the third week of January, that's the team you'll look at and go, that's no fun. Okay.
All roads go through KC.
Yeah. But everybody else in the conference right now, you look at them and go, either they're good but beatable, or they're not even that good and they're going to make the playoffs. I mean, it's, Jacksonville's one of those teams. It's like, what day do you get them on? Baltimore, same kind of a thing. Like,
I don't believe in the quarterback. So
I tend to agree with you. I don't believe in them as a playoff team either. But I mean, they're one of those teams. If you get them on the wrong day and they're really humming, they can be a problem. And if you catch them on a day where they're kind of out of sync, you can beat them up pretty good.
Yeah. Just take a lead on those guys, and you're all right.
Yes, because then you force them to play totally differently.
Right.
I agree with you. Look, the big wild card in the AFC is the Bengals, because that team, when they're right, they're as good as anybody in football. I mean, they can just absolutely put it on you. But as we saw,
and they're the one team that gives KC,
no question.
We know KC is the beast of the AFC.
Yep.
Everything goes through KC. The one team right now that you can say, and it's not the Dolphins, it's Cincinnati, the one that can get after them. That's why I kind of put the Dolphins in third place right now in the AFC. First KC, then Cincinnati, then Miami, until Miami can prove otherwise. But right now, KC's the dog, bro. They're the king of the mountain right now.
Well, yeah, I would agree. I mean, look, I think the one thing with the Bengals is the Bengals know they can beat Kansas City.
Right.
And, we saw last year in the AFC Championship game. I mean, look, in this day and age, there's not a lot of hatred between professional teams. Those teams hate each other. Like, I can tell you from talking to people in both buildings, there is a genuine, like, we do everything to beat that team at all costs type of thing. I mean, it matters. That Burrowhead thing last year really, really pissed off Kansas City. So but that's what makes sports great. But the Bengals don't have a fear of them. Where I think, some teams go to Arrowhead, especially late in the year, and I think they're almost halfway beaten when they get off the bus. It's like, all right, we're not going to win this game. The Bengals don't look at it like that. And I will say, for Miami, even though they lost to them, if they see them in the playoffs, it will help Miami that they've already played. There is a confidence, like, okay, we saw them. This is now. Look, doesn't mean you're going to beat them. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But at least there's not that almost like, I don't know if I want to say fear factor, but almost that factor of like getting over it's Mahomes and it's Kelce and they've played them. They've played them now. So and of course having Tyreek helps in the sense he knows them as well as anybody. So look, Miami's definitely a dangerous team in the AFC, and it's a conference that looks a lot different than we thought it would back in August.
Gary Myers put out there that he thinks the Chargers are the team that now has the inside lane at getting Bill Belichick. Last question, 2-part question. Why? And do you believe any of this? Because to me, I don't understand why anyone in the NFL, any ownership group is saying to themselves, oh, he's going to be out of it. Oh, I can't wait to get my hands on him. I don't understand this. Walk me through this, please.
So if I'm the Chargers, I'd hire him in a heartbeat because I'm the Chargers, and I'll take all the credibility I can get after watching Brendan Staley give up an average of 1,700 yards every game. I mean, I'm all for that. I think Belichick can coach. I don't think Belichick should ever be in charge of a personnel department again.
But that's not going to happen. He's going to want personnel control.
Well, and if they do,
and now he's going to want his own puppet running it.
Well, you know what? And if they do that, they're going to get what they deserve. They're going to get a team that's well coached, but that is diminishing in the roster category. But here's my thing, and you know this is true. They're going to pay him. They're going to pay him. You're telling me that franchise who never hires a coach,
that's a great point.
You're going to pay Belichick?
Spanos does not pay. That's right.
Think about the coaches they've had in the last handful of years. Stanley, first-time head coach, don't have to pay him a ton. Mike McCoy, don't have to pay him a ton. Anthony Lynn, didn't have to pay him a ton. Norv Turner, the last coach they paid anything to was Marty Schottenheimer, and they fired him after he won 14-2. So you're telling me they're going to bring in Belichick, who's going to be the highest paid coach in the NFL. They're bringing in Belichick and paying him. I will tell you my personal belief is I think if he coaches anywhere next year, I would have watched Washington.
Yeah, that's the other one. Yeah,
that owner will pay. Okay, I'm a Devils fan in hockey, as a lot of you guys know, and he owns the Devils. He will pay. He does not care. They will pay the money. They're trying to rebuild that, not only that team, but the brand. Right. You get immediate credibility with Belichick. And Belichick's from there. Belichick's from Annapolis, essentially. So, to me, if there's any team that I'm looking at, it's Washington. The Chargers, call me when they pay anybody. He's not going there for free. He's not working pro bono with the Chargers.
It's a great point. It's a great point.
I just – nothing against Gary, but I have serious reservations that they're going to be paying him.
Yeah, no, that makes that really is the killer point of that all, because Spanos, he would have to spend a lot of money because then Belichick's also going to want to pay his assistants and all that, and
all these guys.
Yeah. And that's the other thing. He can't build a staff. That's I don't want.
Daniels is open. He's available.
Yeah, I don't want his staff, bro. I mean, that's just kind of look what's going on. That
weird. Would be the trilogy actually for Josh McDaniels. That would be the third AFC West team he's been a part of. The Chiefs are all that's left.
And I know he was big in the AFL. Like he loved it as a young man.
Huge, yes.
Yeah. So the Chargers are from the AFL, so that I can see that connection. But obviously, the Washington one is the one that originally everybody was talking about, and now they brought up, the Chargers. To me, I would just let it go. If I'm in the NFL, I'm looking for the new style. I'm looking for innovative people, something new. I'm not trying to take a page from the old, bro. I need to. The game has changed.
Lastly,
and he hasn't evolved with the game, dude.
I would also say that. Like he's still under contract through next year.
Yeah.
There's a world where they trade him. Like there is a world where he goes, well, I'm going to leave and go coach the Chargers or the Commanders. And Kraft goes, yeah, that's nice. We're going to trade you. Like we'll send you to wherever you want to go. We're going to trade you. Right. And that adds a whole nother layer to this. Like who's giving up picks? I mean, you're not getting a third rounder for Belichick. Like you're not, there's
going to be at least a first rounder to start the conversation.
You're getting more than you gave up for Sean Payton. Okay. Like you're giving up something decent. And think about this. How did he get to New England? The Jets traded him there. Yeah. So wouldn't that be full circle almost 25 years later? But yeah, I'm sure we're not done with this story. That's for sure.
Follow him on Twitter at Matt Verderame. Matt, as always, appreciate you, my brother. Hope the roofing goes smooth. We'll catch up next week.
So do I. Take care.
You got it. There you go. The great Matt Verderame. We love him, man. Always getting it done.
This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.